Action.
I think they heard you say action. Um, Welcome back,
Or
everybody.
to the AfterCon podcast, episode 73. And we're practically filming a movie, so you should say action and cut when we're done, really. Yeah. Um,
We're not on, our A game today, but welcome back. 'Tis the Halloween spooky season. Oh, you are on your A game today?
I'm always on my B game. That's my secret.
All right, all right, all
hmm
right. So, Jacob, why don't you tell them what we're talking about today?
So today we're here to talk about uh, all things spooky. Kayla and I, we were talking about this, and we actually haven't met people from many Halloween or horror based movies and TV shows, which is kind of um, something that we need to invest in. There are horror
Or
based
conventions. I feel like that's
conventions,
fun to try. We have
and
never done one.
right, and we need to branch out of what we've done in the past. And that's the thing that's gone back to something we've talked about before. There's so many conventions out there that are completely unrelated to. I mean, horror is technically pop culture by today's standards,
Yeah.
but outside of the norm, there's a really huge following for that, and I almost feel like I'd be intimidated to go
I
to
feel
a
like
horror convention,
people are all dressed up in scary costumes. You'd be
which
walking
would
around
be
like a haunted house,
it'd be super cool though. You might
but
not have a great time.
you know,
Um,
maybe
yeah, I
that's
think
the
it'd be easier to get a costume that could fit a theme for
I do like a good
Halloween where it's also not hot, right? Like that's the problem with dressing up a lot of the time when you're going to a convention like this is most outfits of things that are cool, you're going to end up putting a lot on and sweating a lot. Or the reverse, you might wear practically nothing. Um, but I'm not great with the whole public nudity like a lot of those people are. So saying
right.
it's one thing, doing it, totally different thing.
Right.
Um, but who we have met about a year or so ago, Kayla and I did a virtual convention's not even the right word, as a
I
meet and
can't
greet
remember the
or
two times. Yeah, it was a virtual convention, I think.
well, conventions, it was technically just with two people. So I mean it wasn't the conventions. Oh wait, never mind. What it was a virtual convention that's put on, and they were specifically hosting virtual jump-ins with a couple from Halloween Town,
Okay.
specifically Halloween Town 2. We met with Kimberly Brown, who
Okay.
plays Marnie Piper,
Yes.
great name,
Great name.
and man, honestly, how those movies were so popular. They named the girl Marnie, that poor thing. And sorry to any Marnies out there. Uh, agree to disagree. Right. And then Daniel Counts, who played Kai, who was the villain.
How?
Cal. Kai is cooler.
This isn't the Vampire Diaries.
That's true. Technically, if the Vampire Diaries does fall into the tropes of being a little bit more on the supernatural, spooky side, and so we are there, and I think like when we were like signing up to join this virtual convention to see these two from Halloween Town, I know for me, I actually didn't even know that they were a couple, and I don't believe it was like a. You correct me here, but I don't believe that they like met and fell in love on the show. Um,
It
I
was.
it was years later at a probably a fan convention or something. Maybe they
Think so.
rekindled. Yeah,
Yep. Are they married now or
I thought that they were
I'm
married
always
at
gonna
that
question
time.
because they did their little thing together in their apartment.
Right.
Um, they're just engaged. Oh no,
Ah,
they got married in April of this
of
year,
oh, on April 6th, my birthday.
April 19th. So no, apparently they don't
I
care
do
about
have a
social.
friend whose birthday is on the 19th, though. Um, so wild, right? Um, but yeah, I will say this. Having rewatched those movies, they're not good. Like even
They do not hold up. Mm-mm.
then even like the nostalgia, it's like you kind of see it when you're there, but the acting's cheesy. Even for a kids movie, we loved it back then, but like just Standards of
Toxic Department is season one of Supergirl.
ter That's a good call out. It's
Yes,
terrible.
it is.
Um,
Yeah,
but yeah, it's not a movie that hold. They're not movies that hold the test of time by any sense of the word. They're. If you liked them back then, you can't honestly rewatch it today and say that you still like it. You're lying to everybody.
yeah.
Um,
But
and
I virtual conventions. Your take on them, Jake? They pretty much blow.
they blow. I mean, we haven't been to one that it's
It's like you're watching an interview on TV, really.
right, and like we've done it where we've got to talk to them, but the thing is it's
We didn't talk to these guys, did we?
no, we didn't. It was just like a virtual room that we were let into.
Yeah.
And the difficult part is I think that it is totally cool and acceptable to do the ones where you do get to have that engagement if you like that person enough to where you have a lot to talk about. But if it's just somebody who you're like, you know what, it's affordable and I think it'd be cool to meet them, you're going to go into that and realistically, A, you don't know what they are as far as conversation style, etc. But like you don't know what to say to them. Like the conversation dries up really fast. Like in a minute or two, we had met. I'm gonna space his name, but we met an actor who we've
Hmm.
talked about on the podcast before, who's just we loved him so much growing up, and he's older now, and
Tim
he,
Curry.
Tim Curry, thank you, and he's also not in the best health. Great person, great actor, but it was like he wasn't who we expected, and so it was just this awkward thing that we paid probably too much for, quite frankly. Um, and yeah, so I would regret that. But like again, if it was somebody who was more current, younger, healthier, who you like wanted to ask a million questions with, you also have to hope that like they're a kind person willing to give you the time of day. Um, so yeah, um,
Now,
Marnie and Daniel, uh, or Marnie and Cal, would not. You know, if you like the movies and you ever see them out there doing
you're
something
like
like
obsessed, and you're like one of those who like the nostalgia, and you just love them, and then maybe,
right,
we were never that way though with
n
them.
never. You know, the other piece that I would say with these are like as far as people we've met in horror, the only person that I can really think of would be Matthew Lillard from, you know, who's in Scream, Freddie Prinze Jr., who we had the pleasure of. I know you did last summer. Number one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I
Um,
forgot.
right,
But
right. Um, People from those movies that I would love to meet. I mean, really anybody in the original cast I mean, for us, the horror franchises I think that we loved growing up the most was Scream. Second would be I Know You Did Last Summer.
yeah,
Ironically, though, personal opinion, I've rewatched the first one. It's been a while since I've rewatched the second. I Know What You Did Last Summer. They're okay, but like they weren't as good as I remembered them being. Like the first one's it's very slow and it's just not as actiony in a way that I feel like that movie should be. I don't
yeah. But I
know.
remember them being so good when we were
They
kids. Maybe
yeah.
that's what they're made for, like now they're
I do think Scream holds up exceptionally well. When people tell me they don't like those movies, I do not understand at all.
no.
Um, but I've been rewatching some very old classics, and I'm trying to keep that flow going for Halloween. But a couple weekends ago, I watched all of the original 1980s Freddy, Freddy Krueger, A Nightmare on Elm Street movies. There were five between 1980 and 1989.
Watch all those? Did you catch all?
I watched all of them 2 weekends ago, and the second one's terrible. Freddy, for some reason, is he takes over somebody's body, which isn't even his thing, and very much like a vampire, this person just their body physically transforms into a vampire, um, or excuse me, into Freddy Krueger, and it makes no sense. But the rest of them, they're like not bad. But Freddy Krueger's not in them as much as I kind of remembered him being. Uh,
I
they're
only
mild.
maybe seen one of those.
Yeah, and
I don't
that's
know.
fine. I really thought that I was like, those were my favorite, but I needed to like prove it to myself. changed my mind. I've now watched the first two original Friday the 13th movies, which is Jason
And
Voorhees. Um, better, better, but guess what? Not only did they make more in the same years of 1980 through 1989, every single year there were eight movies, eight the 13th movies made between 80 and 89. They're just pumping out these horror movies. That's also when they were making the Halloween movies, which is I feel like the 80s would have been just an exceptional
really,
time for people who loved horror movies.
they
Um,
think, yeah.
yeah. And there's a lot of people in those movies that I would love, like the Halloween movies. Jamie Lee Curtis would be so cool to meet.
Now she was at a Comic Con. Like I have a picture of her like in a booth, but we didn't get her autograph or anything, but she was there.
Yeah.
She was
Yeah, I mean, technically it counts. We've said more about less. Um, but I think that that's really where Kayla and I are planning on focusing now is like seeing what those conventions are, who from the movies and shows attend them, because we don't know. So we're about to go kind of do some of our own research for the first time, to see where they're at, what time of year they're held, because I can't imagine that like horror.
I think I've previously looked and I feel like they have them like scattered throughout the year, like
I
in
mean,
different states.
those are the people that need to probably make the most money. So I guess that would track.
Yeah.
Um, because yeah, they're all beta D-list celebrities.
And I wonder who puts them on, if it's creation or if it's probably not creation,
Probably
but
not creation because I feel like we would have seen that before, but that's sure there probably is a company that
you know,
backs that.
Band Expo, I think is another hot one, but
Right. Um, and then, but yeah, I'd be really interested to see who goes and if it's more of just like the cult classic people who starred in films that no longer are in the new ones because
could be.
it, yeah, like I'll say this as I'm rewatching The Haunting of Hill House right now for the fifth time on Netflix. The show is phenomenal and it gets better with every watch. Um, the dead kitten scene that I watched last night in episode two, I tell you what,
Right.
it's mortifying. Now that one's not a cry as much as it is absolutely disgusting, um, but in the
But
best way, right? But like that cast, man, I would love to meet them. Um,
you think?
I think that'd be so cool.
One chick from The Mummy, right?
Yes,
The mom.
the mom. I I was trying to think of yesterday who she married to because I feel like we know her husband,
She is married to somebody famous.
but
Very.
not Brendan Fraser because that'd be too
That
convenient.
would be too amazing. Yeah.
Right. No,
But we
Kayla,
do know he's like the guy who played
I think this is the actress that looks like the girl
one of
from
the
the
double
mummy.
O Sevens. Oh my gosh, am I wrong? It's
I
not.
feel
It's
like yeah, it's the girl. Yeah, it's the girl that looks just like her.
they're
Oddly enough,
identical.
not the girl who also replaced the Brendan Fraser's wife in The Mummy 3, because that also would have made too much sense.
Okay,
Um,
this chick is not from the Mummy.
yeah, I don't know that she's done other horror things since then, and she was in I think a couple of popular shows. What is her name? Assuming you've got it pulled up.
Carla Gugino, and it doesn't
Nailed
look
it,
like
I'm sure. Yeah. Um, yeah. So it would just it's an avenue of I wouldn't have interest in a horror convention specifically. It's just an avenue to get to meet some actors who I probably wouldn't get to meet at a other type of convention. Um,
hold
like
up.
Jason Gallagher seems like he'd be
Which one's Jason Gale?
Jason
Oh
Gallagher?
yeah, yeah,
Is
yeah.
it Jason?
Well, hold up. I was just looking.
Tom Gallagher?
Um, the mom from The
Hmm.
Haunting of Hill House was in one episode of New Girl, and now I'm very intrigued.
Ooh,
Oh, three episodes of New Girl. She played Schmidt's boss that he had to
that's
fire.
right. Schmidt's boss. You guys know. Um, anyways, yeah. So, horror, we need some work to do so that next Halloween, hopefully, we've got a more haunting story for everybody. Okay, was there anything else that you wanted to touch on?
I don't think so. If I can peel my face away from the phone. I think that's it. I know that it would be cool to I don't know. Hocus Pocus. I mean, they came out with a new movie last year. Who knows if they'll do more of those?
It sounds like they might be working on a third Hocus
Oh,
Pocus from
really?
rumors that I've seen, and again, I only talk about rumors that that are at the very least real rumors. Whether or not it's true or not, I wouldn't trust any source. I ain't
Hey,
no fool. Um, yeah, you've
I
made some errors in judgment with what you've seen on the internet. But yeah, the Hocus Pocus 3 thing, it sounds like there are talks of trying to develop a story for a third one and doing it sooner rather than later. So
type of thing.
they did, and also though a couple of those actresses, mostly one, isn't getting any younger. Bette Midler. So I think it's one of those things where it's like, hey, if we want to quick right off the coattails of number two, we should really do it now before we make this decision in 10 years, and you know,
Right, right.
yeah,
But yeah, so again, we haven't met too many horror celebrities, but we will be doing our research to try to find that opportunity to meet some more.
right. Thanks everybody for joining us on this week's episode of a spooky AfterCon podcast.
Nice touch, nice touch.
All right, thanks.
Until next
All
time.
right, bye.